What's going on, guys? This is VinylicPuma, back with another Borderlands 3 video, and today I figured it could be good to talk about Borderlands 3's Guardian rank system and go over everything from how you should boost your stats to what some of the best skills and perks are. Now, if you're familiar with Borderlands 2 and the B.A.R system in that game, Borderlands 3's Guardian system is very similar in that you could select specific stat attributes to boost as you accrue tokens or additional ranks. Unlike Borderlands 2, though, the Guardian system is unlocked upon completing the game for the first time, and rather than rewarding ranks or tokens based on completing certain arbitrary challenges, it's based on gaining experience points like you would when you're trying to level up. Additionally, the Guardian system includes awards at specific token thresholds, which consist of things like new skins and, of course, new skills or perks. In this video, I'll be going over the entire system in depth, I'll be giving you guys my opinions on where you should allocate your tokens, and I'll also be going over the quality of some of the various skills or perks themselves. And as always, if this video helped you out, definitely be sure to smash like, and failing that, at least let me know what you think of this head customization I'm showing on screen. But without further ado, let's go ahead here and get started. Now, as you can see here, I've already gone ahead and did a little bit of allocation myself, but before we get into why I did what I did, let's go over each of the trees. For our first tree, we have the Enforcer tree, which primarily focuses on damage. When you allocate points here, you can increase things like gun, critical, and grenade damage, and as you gain ranks within the tree itself, you can get skills like Inner Fury or Overkill, which are primarily centered around dealing more damage. For the middle tree, you have Survivor, which primarily focuses on survival/defensive type stats. You'll be able to boost things here like fight for your life duration, your maximum health, and shield capacity, while many of the skills here like Resilient or Shield Reboot primarily focus around improving your overall durability as you play through the game. And finally, there's the Hunter tree, which is primarily the utility tree, focusing on improving areas that aren't always related to damage and survivability. For example, you could boost things here like reload speed or action skill cooldown, while various skills here like Bullet Collector and Treasure Hunter will improve your character's loot drops. Of course, the question is, how should you allocate your tokens for each tree? Well, if you decide to go with Enforcer, it makes the most sense to go for gun damage, critical damage, and gun fire rate. The reason for this is because a 10% boost to all of these stats can significantly up your DPS for most builds. That said, you may not always get to choose these three every time you rank up, and with that in mind, it couldn't hurt to put points into grenade and melee damage too, as you'll likely be using both grenades and melee throughout your playthrough. There is one bonus stat here I would highly recommend you avoid, and that is vehicle damage. The reason for this is because you can only take advantage of this bonus while in vehicles, and given how most of the game takes place while you're not in a vehicle, you're better off just investing in the other 5 stats that can be taken advantage of literally all the time. Maybe my thinking on this will change if Borderlands 3 gets a DLC that features a lot of vehicle-on-vehicle combat, but as a general rule, avoid vehicle damage as those tokens are better placed elsewhere. Ultimately, and again, try to prioritize gun damage, critical damage, and gun fire rate. After that, place points in either melee damage or grenade damage while avoiding vehicle damage. As far as the Enforcer tree's skills go, it's slow to start but gets much better the more tokens you allocate. To start off at 15 points, you get Inner Fury, which adds gun damage to your shots while you're in fight for your life. This isn't bad, but it's not really amazing or life-changing either, and for that reason, you might want to avoid putting tokens into Enforcer at first. However, if you don't care about that, many of the later skills are much better. At 25 tokens, you get Overkill, which allows excess damage from the previous kill to be added to your next shot. At 50 tokens, you get Combo, which improves your gun damage by 2% for 1 second with each shot. And then at 75 tokens, you get Hollow Point, which causes enemies to explode when you kill them with a critical. In general, all 3 of these latter abilities are fantastic for helping to improve your damage output, and for that reason, they are highly recommended. Overall, I'd say if you don't mind a slower start, go with Enforcer since the associated skills get pretty strong over time. But we'll now go ahead and talk about our next tree, which is the Survivor tree. As far as bonus stats go, it makes the most sense to go for max health, shield capacity, and fight for your life duration. Having more health and shields is always good. However, I think what's really best is having improved fight for your life duration, since a 10% bonus can yield an additional second or two for your entire duration, which can really come in handy for the first couple of times that you go down. After that, you have shield recharge delay, shield recharge rate, and fight for life movement speed as other options. Personally, I like the benefits to shield recharge delay most, but you could really go into any three of these and not yield a bad result. Granted, I don't think they're quite as useful as the first three we discussed, but you may find that all can still be pretty nice to have. I will say though that I do like to avoid shield recharge rate, since you may find with the proper skills on your character that you may not need it. Again, just try to prioritize fight for life duration, max health, and shield capacity, as these tend to be best. But if you don't have a choice between these three, feel free to pick any of the other three bonus stats. As far as skills go, the Survivor tree probably has the best start out of all three of the bonus stat categories. At 15 tokens, you can get Resilient, which allows you to recover with full health and full shields when achieving a second wind. This is extremely beneficial, as it's well worth the 15 tokens, and it makes it much harder for you to go down again just after getting back up. Past 15 tokens though, the rest of these skills are fairly decent. You have Dead Man's Hand, which is nice for achieving second wins. You have Shield Reboot, which is nice for more aggressive playstyles where you're killing lots of enemies really quickly. And then you have Emergency Response, which is okay, but compared to some of the other 75 token skills from the other two trees, I think it comes up a little bit short. It's not bad, but unless you're putting together a build that revolves around having really low health, you may not get much out of it. In the end though, I'd say Survivor has a great start skill-wise and has some nice benefits for fight for your life, so if you feel you might want better survivability, it would be good to start here. However, this brings us to our final tree and set of bonus stats to discuss, and that is for the Hunter tree. As for stats, I think it makes the most sense to go for anything here but accuracy. The reason for this is that all of the other bonus stats are better, and most weapons in Borderlands 3 are fairly accurate as it is. That and most guns with an inherent accuracy over 80% will usually have bullets that are firmly within the reticle on your sight or scope. So again, just avoid accuracy, it's not worth your time. As far as the other stats go, they pretty much do what they say and all are quite nice. Recoil reduction can be nice for Jacob's weapons. Reload speed is nice for helping improve your DPS. Action skill cooldown will help recharge your action skill faster after use. And of course, investing in luck is nice since it will improve your in-game drop rates. If I had to prioritize here, I'd probably go with action skill cooldown and luck, and then pick up recoil reduction and reload speed after that. Again though, just avoid accuracy, and if you've already placed a few tokens here, just don't do it again in the future. Skill-wise, pretty much everything within the Hunter tree is great to have and highly beneficial. At 15 tokens, you'll get Bullet Collector, which is nice as it will allow you to replenish more ammo from ammo pickups. At 25 tokens, you'll get Tag and Frag, which can prove useful since it will replenish grenades as you defeat enemies. At 50 tokens, you'll get Topped Off, which will be nice for characters that either don't get hit a lot, or as a nice method to fully recharge your action skill in between fights. And finally, at 75 tokens, you get Treasure Hunter, which will increase your luck for 10 seconds after each kill, which is of course nice if you're trying to get better drop rates. Ultimately, the Hunter tree and its bonus stats are good for supplemental purposes, and this would be a great place to start if you decide against the other two trees. Just remember to again avoid speccing for accuracy, as I don't foresee you getting really much benefit out of it. Now before we go here, I do think it's important to answer one last question about Guardian ranks, and that simply is, where should I start? Well, if it were me, and as you can see from what I've done here, I think it makes the most sense to start with Survivor. You don't necessarily need to put as many points in it at first like I have done here, but you may find getting Resilient is of great benefit since it will make it much harder for you to go down again shortly after you achieve a second wind. After that, you could choose to do what I'm doing here, which is max out everything else within Survivor and then move on to the other trees. Or you could just go ahead and move on to another tree and maybe pick up some of the stuff in Enforcer, or maybe pick up some of the stuff in Hunter. It really is up to you. Regardless of what you do though, I think it is worth mentioning that it's not going to be especially bad or anything if you do mess up and end up with something you don't like. In the case of the skills, you will be able to get them all eventually, provided you allocate enough tokens within each of the trees. And as far as stats go, if you really screw up those, keep in mind that they don't really start to make a huge difference until you reach the 10% mark in any given stat. So if you have 1% in accuracy or whatever, it's not a huge deal. You just don't want 10% in accuracy while having 0 to 1% in luck or action skill cooldown. Otherwise, guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to smash a like, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload next, and as always, and again, thank you all so much for supporting this channel. Take care, and I'll see you all in the next one.